Here's some fun, a little celebration of all things Lariat. A video that should remind you of the need to seriously protect your neck. It's such a simple move, yet it's so beautiful. A big old arm swung at full force with the aim of taking a person's head off. In the right hands, few things in wrestling are quite as ugly beautiful and flat out decisive as a good lariat. Over the years, many have taken the lariat as their finisher, and a lot of these people have added their own spin on the move, made their own contribution to its rich history. And this is a simple little video celebrating that. I've got 18 wrestlers here, all of whom have their own fabulous lariats, and this vid's all about compiling them. Now, I don't really want to make this a countdown. I think if we did, well, while the number one would obviously be a certain cowboy from Borgia, Texas, after that it does get tricky. We've got 17 other excellent lariats here, and it would get a bit silly trying to order them. So instead, we're just going to go alphabetically. Our first lariat belongs to a big Japanese name, not one who tends to get too many flowers from Western fans in all honesty, but his importance is staggering and really cannot be denied. Riki Choshu. For the most part, the lariats in this video can be put into two categories, ones that usually finish an opponent off in one go, or others which may need one or two to put an opponent down. Riki Choshu's Riki lariat is amongst the latter category. It's not necessarily Choshu's main finisher, as that's his innovated Scorpion Deathlock, but it's a pretty nasty move that certainly ended a lot of big Choshu matches. We've got some damn fine examples here, particularly this one against Kurt Hennig, which results in an outrageously classical Hennig bump. Lovely stuff. Here is a more modern lariat practitioner. Joe Doering's largely had a good career in Japan, winning All Japan's Triple Crown twice, but he's occasionally appeared in the States, most recently in TNA, where he's been working an ordinary cowboy-type gimmick and teaming with Eric Young and Cody Deaner. A gimmick like this one usually needs a good lariat, and Doering's is called the Chain of Sorrow. It is quite a unique setup. Doering gets a guy on his shoulders, chucks him off fireman's carry style but holds onto the arm, gets him up, and then absolutely rips a short arm lariat. Definitely the sort of move that feels like a proper one and done match ender, and it's given Doering plenty of victories in TNA. Joe Doering's always been quite an entertaining guy to watch, and it is a shame his career has often been sidelined due to struggles with his health, particularly brain cancer. So hopefully he'll be fighting fit again soon. Terry Bam Bam Gordy's lariat wasn't necessarily his main finisher, but it played a crucial role in a story that could have seen him become All Japan's top foreigner, if it weren't for fate being so damn cruel. Terry Gordy's lariat was known as the Torpedo, and the idea was that this torpedo could be the one to sink Stan Hansen, whose nickname in Japan was Fujinkan, or Unsinkable Battleship. And sink him it did. Terry Gordy would win his second All Japan Triple Crown title with the help of the Torpedo lariat, defeating Stan Hansen with it. That is certainly Gordy's most famous use of the lariat, although there are other fine examples. That's just what you get with a guy this good at, well, everything basically. As ever, the one frustrating thing about Terry Gordy is that there isn't more to see. He's one of the best things going in wrestling today, an almighty throwback who believes that the ring is sacred, as imposing a figure as there has ever been in the squared circle. It's Gunther. Now, the Rin General has tons of ways to finish opponents. He can powerbomb them, he can choke them out, wrench them with a crab, he can use his Last Symphony Emerald Flosion, all sorts. But many have fallen to his lariat. He'll either fling it at an opponent who is stupidly running at him, hold the head and do it short arm style, or just rush an opponent with it. Usually the match is just about done afterwards. Either it's a pin, or Gunther goes to one of his other moves. And so, even if Gunther does have all these different ways of winning a match, the lariat may just be the most important one of the lot, and it is one of many things that gives him such an incredible aura in the ring. So, of course, this is the main guy who is synonymous with the lariat. Hell, his nickname is the Lariat. Although this is an alphabetical list, Stan Hansen is obviously the best when it comes to this move. Hansen originally earned the Lariat nickname due to, in kayfabe, breaking Bruno Sammartino's neck with the strike, and from there, the Western Lariat, as it was known in Japan, would become his primary weapon. As an aside, the name Western Lariat doesn't actually have anything to do with Hansen being an ordinary cowboy. It's actually because Hansen uses his left arm for the Lariat, whereas most wrestlers traditionally would use the right arm for it. There's the violence of the strike. The whole nature of Hansen means that still, more than any other use of the move, it's a purely violent flin with absolutely nothing but the worst of intentions. I mean, we are talking about a guy who's legally blind without his glasses on. There's the unpredictability of it. Hansen could hit this move from damn near anywhere, at any time, and there are so many golden examples of that. You're just never fully safe. And of course it was heavily protected. While in some instances a person could possibly kick out of one Western Lariat, I don't think anyone ever managed to kick out of a second. The importance of the move in his hands, the status it had, while there have been some truly incredible practitioners of the Lariat, nobody is ever going to come close to Stan Hansen. Happily, we do have a queen on this list, and that's Jamie Hayter. Dubbed the Hayterade, this is an absolute ripper whether it's delivered in more regular form or if it's done as a ripcord move. The strength of Hayter, combined with her speed, really sells it beautifully. Jamie Hayter has definitely been one of the best Finns going in women's wrestling over the last few years, and hopefully once she returns from injury we'll see a bunch more necks being collected thanks to those vicious limb-like arms of hers. Yeah, we can't really have a Lariat list without this fella. The old brother 20-inch pythons, vitamins and prayers orange goblin himself. Hogan's Lariat was his main finisher in Japan, as opposed to the atomic leg drop of doom. Really, if it had just been his main finisher everywhere, he may not have such an utterly wrecked body nowadays. Still, it is a cool move, and it is a bit different. A regular old Lariat doesn't quite work for Hogan. Hulk Hogan's Axe Bomber is a crooked arm lariat, kind of halfway between lariat and clothesline. The move got its status due to it knocking out Antonio Inoki. In kayfabe, mind you. It is a similar sort of tale to how Hansen earned the lariat, although the Hansen one did involve a legit injury off a body slam. It's not necessarily the strongest looking lariat, but it's certainly done the job. Amusingly, just a couple of weeks ago, in the often weird land of DDT, Hulk Hogan passed the Axe Bomber over to his number one protege, Shinichiro Kawamatsu, a Japanese politician who's decided to take up wrestling, who won a match using the move. Because, well, that's the sort of awesomeness that happens in DDT. Up next, it's the man from Bed-Stuy, Do or Die, the notorious 187, Homicide. Finisher-wise, once again, Homicide is perhaps most synonymous with the cop or the gringo killer. There's no doubt about that. However, the West Brooklyn Lariat has been responsible for a lot of his biggest moments, particularly when it comes to Ring of Honor. None bigger, of course, than Final Battle 2006, when Homicide capped off a tremendous year by facing off against Bryan Danielson in New York, hitting him with that lariat and pinning him to win the ROH World title. There's a lot of other big Homicide matches that got finished with the lariat, and the whole spectacle of it, ripping off the armband and chucking it out, stirring stuff, especially when the crowd was fully behind him. Another guy who is most certainly loved or hated in equal measure, but yeah, John Bradshaw Layfield's lariat can't exactly be denied, no matter what. Execution-wise, it is right up there with the very best. Dubbed the Clothesline from Hell, apparently thanks to a suggestion from Steve Austin, JBL basically puts his entire body into the frickin' move. It's part lariat and part football tackle, and it feels like Bradshaw's swinging his entire upper body at the opponent, not just the arm. It's not uncommon for Bradshaw himself to end up on the floor, or at least on a knee, after throwing the Clothesline from Hell. It is an absolutely stunning lariat finisher, that's for sure. One thing I always found amusing is that while Bradshaw used this lariat throughout his entire WWE career, it didn't get the moniker until he started teaming with Farouk as the Acolytes. Yes, originally Hell's Henchmen for like a week. And it was such a fine name that it stuck through the APA days and led to the JBL days, despite damn near everything else about Bradshaw's character changing. It's too good a name to pass up, I suppose, and it totally fits this lariat. Stan Hansen may well be the top user of the Lariat, but it would be hard to pick anyone except Kenta Kobashi as the move's number 2. It is an absolutely integral part of his arsenal, and his Burning Lariat in particular is one of the best finishers of them all. It's got such a fabulous build-up, the pump of the arm and the roar to the crowd, picking up the opponent, grabbing them by the head, pulling that arm back. It's incredible. It doesn't feel so much like a finisher as it feels like an execution. And of course Kenta Kobashi's regular Lariat is pretty great too. The funny thing is that it's not like the Lariat was always Kenta Kobashi's finisher. Back in the first half of the 90s he relied more on aerial moves such as the moonsault or the orange drop to finish matches, as well as a suplex into a powerbomb called the orange crush. However, these moves became less feasible over time. The Orange Crush was difficult to perform on heavier opponents, while the Moonsault in particular was causing serious damage to Kobashi's knees. And so, the Lariat took centre stage. The Burning Lariat in particular won Kobashi the Triple Crown title from Toshiaki Kawada in 1998, and he's never really looked back. Once again, Kobashi has a lot of ways to beat people, from the Brainbuster to the Moonsault to the particularly rare likes of the Burning Hammer, but the Burning Lariat is his standout regular finisher, one that rarely got kicked out of. Satoshi Kojima, along with being famous for eating lots of bread and elbowing CM Punk in the groin, has had quite a lot of success in wrestling over the years, both as a singles and tag wrestler, and a lot of that has been down to the Lariat, particularly back in the 2000s when he managed to hold both the Triple Crown and the IWGP Heavyweight title at the same time. He actually had some pretty important shoes to fill, in fact. When he first started working for All Japan in 2000, he took some mentorship from the retiring Stan Hansen, and he inherited the Western Lariat. Even though, unlike Hansen, he uses the right arm for the Lariat, as opposed to the left. Kojima isn't perhaps as lethal with the Lariat as Hansen is. It may well take a couple to bring the big opponents down, but still, the move has won Kojima a ton of matches, and several big belts. Nowadays in New Japan, this move is usually dubbed the Cozy Lariat, after Koji's nickname, and even though Kojima is now 53, it is still one of the best hits around. Shuji Kondo isn't amongst the most famous guys we're covering in this video, but the Ultimo Dragon trainee has been a very solid servant for many years now, over a whole bunch of companies, whether it be All Japan, Dragon Gate, or currently Noah. He's one of the strongest junior heavyweight guys out there, and that power is emphasised by his favourite move, the King Kon Lariat. Once again, it's another ripple of a strike, much more in the Clothesline from Hell vein, where Kondo's pretty much thrown his whole body into it, and when it's capped off with a good sell too, it's a damn fine Lariat. While Kondo's best years are perhaps behind him at this point, this Lariat is still a fine weapon. We've got a few more variations on the regular Lariat here and there, and it's about time for the Discus. There's been a few good Discus clotheslines over the years, whether it's DDP or AJ Styles or Brian Cage, but to me there's only really one Discus Lariat, and that belonged to the late, great Mr. Brodie Lee. Often dubbed the clothesline from smell, Brodie would absolutely poleaxe opponents with this move, and that spin added just the right amount of extra stank to it. Also, it's a move that looked damn fine anywhere. It was great on the indies, and it wasn't compromised at all when Brodie went to WWE. Everything the Exalted One did always looked so great, this killer of a Lariat is the cherry on top, and the man is just so dearly missed. The Rebound Lariat is another crackle of a variation, getting bounced off the ropes and using that momentum to sprint off and absolutely smash the opponent. Nigel McGuinness is undoubtedly the best to do this one. He does it very quickly, and then, again, it's a big full swing of that arm. That and the Jawbreaker Lariat is again, just a flat out better name. The Jawbreaker won Nigel McGuinness the ROH World title, taking out Takeshi Morishima, and it defeated plenty more opponents during the Governor's year-plus long reign with the belt. It was an appropriately decisive finisher for a guy who was, undoubtedly, one of the best wrestlers going back in the 2000s. Of course, when it comes to Lariat variations, it's impossible not to mention this one. It's Okada, obviously. The Rainmaker is undoubtedly the best known lariat finisher kicking about in the modern days, as well as one of the most influential. It's not necessarily a one and done move, but there's a lot that goes into the setup and the ceremony of it, especially with the big pose and the big zoom out from the camera. The move itself led to all sorts of other ripcord moves appearing all over the shop. You've got ripcord elbows, ripcord knees, ripcord spears. There's loads, and it all pretty much stems from the Rainmaker. It's not exactly a move that needs a lot of hyping up, and it's one Okada, well, basically all the Finns. This section seems to naturally put a bunch of cool lariat variations in the same place. Following on from Kazuchika Okada and his Rainmaker, we've now got Hanman Adam Page and his Buckshot Lariat. It's like the rebound lariat, only with even more momentum, vaulting over the ropes and shooting off to take out the opponent at maximum speed. It is certainly quite a fancy move, but it looks absolutely amazing when executed right and paired up with a great sell. And while not many Finns beat a good, honest, full-on and straight-up regular lariat, all of these variations are nice to see, and they help keep the move utterly relevant. Go Shiozaki is one of those wrestlers who's had a fair few finishers over the years, a lot of them impressive, the Go Flasher in particular. But nowadays, as he's grown older and surlier, he's rocked the lariat more and more. The Go 1 lariat is a particularly nasty one, a move that Shiozaki doesn't even need that much of a run-up for. He just needs a few steps to absolutely bash an opponent with this one, perhaps in the neck or, hell, maybe just right in the face. Either way, this fine example of a lariat is a great way for this Noah mainstay and, let's not forget, Kobashi protege to finish wrestlers off, as well as being a move that he can throw out there in times of desperation as a great equaliser. It's damn good. And finally, it's Shingo. Shingo Takagi's earned many a win with Listen, and it's absolutely one of the best lariats out there. The Pumping Bomber. Once again, the Pumping Bomber is all about setup. Shingo hypes the crowd up for it and runs behind the opponent, who then, naturally, ends up turning into this whopper of a move, Shingo's arms wrapping right around them. Lovely stuff. Once again, it's not like this is the only way Shingo's got of finishing opponents. He is a former IWGP champ after all, and oftentimes the Pumping Bomber has led into his other main match ender, the Last of the Dragon. But both moves have a pretty damn fine success rate, and it's another great finish that keeps the lariat firmly centre stage. And with that, we're about done with this little list. Hopefully it's one that you've enjoyed watching, and hopefully your neck isn't too sore from seeing all of these big hits. It's such a great move, a classic in the hands of so many wrestlers, that it deserves all the love that it gets. No matter what type of wrestling you're watching, what promotion, what country and all of that, the lariat has always got a place, and it always will have. So until the next time, bye for now.